Good morning, and welcome to the Deal Room Live, the daily real estate deal tank powered by Titan Impact Group, a global leader in AI-driven real estate investing and funding, where the real estate world meets speed, precision, and profit. And bring us your deal so we can put it into our AI model that analyzes and structures real estate deals in minutes, generates all the docs you need to get the deal done, and gives you a verified, unbiased breakdown of due diligence reports. The investors get the advantage of getting fully vetted AI-analyzed deals that cut their due diligence time down by 60%. So you're in the right place. Let's open the deal room now and get into today's opportunity.
Stuff around. Let's see if we can get some connectivity now. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. This is great. So what we're looking at here is I had a session with Deal Hunter. If you don't know what Deal Hunter is an AI model that we've put together and constructed. You can pick these AI models up by going to the you just got to go over here to where it says to explore GPTs, right in this area right here. You're going to go to explore GPTs right there. And that's not the spot. Where'd it go? Damn it. Explore GPTs. There we go. I'm only looking at half a screen here, so that's why I'm a little messed up. But explore GPTs. You're going to go into search GPTs right here. You can see that I've already got one in there, but that's where you would type Deal Hunter by Landshark. When you click on that, it's going to get you, when you type in Deal Hunter by Landshark, it's going to get you to this main spot right here where you're going to be able to start a chat. You can see we've had over 300,000 conversations already. We've got a 4.8 star rating, and what we focus on is research and analysis of real estate deals. We do this better than any kind of real estate agent, broker, any kind of, we've got every kind of informational metrics that you would need. We've got those professionals' knowledge bases locked into this AI model, and I'll demonstrate that right here. So when we get into a conversation with it, we can guarantee that it's going to bring back very strong information. So I'm going to just give you an example of this right now by showing you. We had a conversation with it about whole life with one of our investor clients. Wanted to know how to invest into whole life and then use whole life to invest in real estate. So we had this conversation with them. Don't see where it's popping up on the screen. There we go. We don't want to change the name of it. Let's just have the conversation. Let's go back up to the top where we started the conversation. And up here, what we did was we had a conversation with the guy about how whole life insurance supports real estate through investing. So it builds, you can build liquid capital with it pretty fast because of the cash value that it carries. Then access to public policy loans is how you convert that into buying power. Your money keeps growing while it's in there. And then some of the tax advantages are, because it's a loan, you don't pay taxes on it. It's tax-free. The death benefits are tax-free as well to the beneficiaries, and it can be part of an estate planning to transfer wealth efficiently. There's no interruptions to your deal flow because you're basically the bank. So using whole life insurance, basically the strategy is that you fund a high cash value whole life insurance policy designated for banking, not just death benefits. You let it grow for 6 to 12 months or longer for stronger leverage. You borrow against the cash value of it to buy property for fund part of the deal. You use the rental income or flip, or refinance or whatever to pay the policy loan back, and then you reuse the cash value repeatedly, basically, creating your own private bank. So ideal pairings with real estate are the Burr strategy, down payments for things, gap funding, partnership leveraging. Other considerations could be that you work with a specialist and you get design policies specifically for cash accumulation, and then ramp up. There's a ramp up period. So planning for the timing of this, always track your policy, loan interest, and repayments to avoid over leverage. So Deal Hunter would give you a plan for this if you wanted, for real estate goals, to budget timelines, or whether you already have a policy and need a structuring help structuring one. So I said, do me a favor, break this down to a 5th grade level. And so I did. It says, what is whole life insurance? How does it help with real estate? And then it showed me, here's the cool parts and some easy examples. So if I put 10,000 into a whole life insurance policy, after 2 years, I could borrow $7,000 to help pay buy a rental property. The house makes $500 a month. I use that to pay back my loan, and then I can borrow again for the next deal. So why that's so smart is because while I took that $7,000 loan, the $10,000 is still collecting interest. The whole $10,000, not $3,000, the whole $10,000. So the Rockefeller plan is basically what this is called. So they build wealth, they protect it, and then they pass it down to future generations. An example of this is the Rockefellers versus the Vanderbilts. And the Vanderbilts were actually richer than the Rockefellers. But because the Rockefellers used insurance to create family banking and teach generations to use it wisely, the Vanderbilts just spent their money and ended up becoming broke within a few generations. So why this is important is because you can, I asked it to start, see if we could start out using whole life insurance. How do you start out using whole life insurance in real estate investing? And said, well, you can start with whole life. In a short answer, yes. But the issue is that because you're only putting in a small amount, it doesn't turn into an ATM overnight. So you actually have to wait anywhere between 2 years and 10 years for it to gain enough cash value for you to borrow against it. In a case study, a 34-year-old woman with a W-2 who makes almost $100,000 a year wanted to invest in multifamily. Long-term goal was to have 5 rentals in the next 10 years. The step-by-step game plan was that she needed to first get the foundation set up for this, and that was to get a high cash value whole life policy. So she contributes about $20,000 a year, split up monthly. And then what happens is at the end of year 1, her available value is around 13 to 15,000, depending on how her policy was designed. So with the first real estate deal, she'll borrow the 15,000 cash value. The 20,000 still makes interest, still collects interest. And then she covers her down payment on a $120,000 duplex. The cost of the purchase for this is done with a DSCR loan, and the rental income covers the mortgage, and she puts some more cash flow toward it, paying back the loan, the policy loan faster and saving for the next deal. So then after she gets that loan paid back, her policy has more cash value because of the continued contributions and repayments. She can now borrow 25,000. She probably has 30,000 in there. The renovation, and then she uses those for renovation upgrades to a distressed triplex purchased through a wholesaler. She gets a hard money loan for the initial acquisition and then refinances it into a BRRRR using a DSCR loan. In year 4, the scaling strategy continues. She can now borrow between 30 and 50,000, depending on the contributions and repayments. She starts using policy as a private bank and is able to flip properties, invest in short-term rentals, and she joint ventures with other investors, growing her fund from her policy. So key takeaways: while the whole life is a launch pad, it's not a one and done. It's multi-year real estate strategy. It's not something overnight. It starts as early as you should start as early as possible and get a policy that is designed for cash value, not just insurance. And it's when it comes down to it, it's just there to actually help with creative deals, burst strategies, and funding my own flip. You're funding your own flips. So it is not set up or there to be like an ATM. However, here's where we get tricky with it. I said, what does it say? Take to start a policy and just get some basic information about it. And I wanted to just find out what are some of the rules. They make suggestions like investing between 10 and 20, 50,000 a year, doing monthly payment options, etc. I said, I want to buy $1 million property though. And so in order to do that, what do I got to have? What do I got to do? And so basically, if I did a $50,000 annual contribution, it could take me, 10 to 12 years to accomplish my real estate goal. And I was like, wow, that's kind of tough. But then I seen where if I did an accelerated strategy where I put 100,000 and then 300,000 and 500,000, my chances go up. So it gave me an idea. Let me just drop down to it. I said, okay, so let's just say I have $1 million right now and I contribute that to a whole life in 1 year. Will I be able to access that? It said, yes. If your contribution is $1 million on a property structured in a whole life policy first, in year one, first, what you're going to do is have a large portion of that money become readily available very quickly within 30 days, depending on how the policy is designed. It has to be designed for cash flow. It has to be designed as a high cash flow high cash value. And you have to be prepared to pay it back right after you borrow it. So standard whole life, you get like 60 to 100,000, but a high cash value, infinite banking design. If I put $1 million in today, in 30 days, I will have $700 to $900,000 available back to me. When I borrow that, the $1 million will still collect 6% interest based on how I set it up. So if I set it up as a high cash flow, um, high cash flow policy, and I set it up for banking, not just for life insurance, then what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to borrow between 70 to 90% of that within 30 days. And while I am borrowing it, I'm paying it back at an interest rate. That interest rate is getting split up. I'm putting it back in and increasing the basis of it from $1 million to compound that over however long I borrowed it. So we can do the math on that later. But at the end of the day, this is how you get to use your money right away. Get $1 million, get it in the infinite banking program, and then over that time, you're going to pay back, the cash value and then some. So your $1 million is going to continue to accrue interest of 3 to 5% guaranteed with dividends around 5 to 6%. And you're going to get that monthly. The policy will grow 3% basically monthly, and then provide dividends of 5 to 6% annually. So as you repay the loan, the money becomes available again. So you're basically providing yourself with a revolving line of credit. You must qualify medically and financially to get approved of this, though. And the design must balance liquidity and tax advantage growth. So not all agents know how to do this. Make sure you get with the right one, and you'll pay loan interest. Don't kid yourself. If you borrowed 700,000, you're gonna pay 6% on that, but your full balance is compounding the entire time. So that's the key. So you might have to pay 6%, but you're getting 3% monthly. So it's not a bad deal. So can model this out for us. And I said, this is brilliant. I have a client who has $1 million and wants to start investing. I said, build it out. Let me see what it looks like. And it did a great job of doing that. Deal Hunter, the AI model it's not replacing a human being. It's making one human being be more expeditious, be more efficient. And so I still have to validate all this information through CPAs, lawyers, brokers. And so, I poke fun at realtors online a lot recently because, I see these realtors on their Instagram and on their Facebook, talking about how they're greatest, great agent, and they got all these listings. But then you call them or you text them or you email them, and it's days, if not weeks, before you hear back. And I call bullshit. I'm tired of trying to reach out to these people and get some kind of activity going with them when all I'm doing is research and development. So I will save a good realtor, a good broker, a good lender, a good due diligence officer. I will save them a bunch of time by using this and then send this report to them for them to validate and utilize their knowledge base to compare against the knowledge base of AI. And that saves time, it saves money, it makes things more proficient. And again, the agents and the brokers and the people the professionals that pretend to be professionals and live out on the beach and spend more time actually, trying to be famous than make money. They're the ones that are scared of AI and scared of Landshark uh, Mastermind's model of AI assistance. You know, so if you're a real estate professional in this business and you're not using Landshark, Deal Hunter by Landshark, why? Are you scared? Is it because you're not comfortable with how proficient and efficient a machine is over what you're doing sitting around at the beach? And if you're not sitting around at the beach, and if you're one of those real estate professionals that don't vacation after every closing, um, then you're not getting your butt hurt by this. But if you're getting your butt hurt by this, I'm talking to you. So, leave dirty comments, leave, negative reviews. I don't give a damn. But I guarantee you'll be starting to use this because it'll make your beach time a lot easier to enjoy. When you're still trying to make money as a real estate agent, in an AI, world. So, but again, this thing's free. Nobody's charging for this. We charge for the mastermind because we actually do concierge real estate investing for people. We have a fiduciary license that we'll be obtaining to do that and be able to work with high-end clients on getting their $1 million packed up into a policy that they can then turn around and use to do deals with. So, um, and getting into the bigger deals comes in ways that require fast thinking, and you just can't wait for days and weeks for people to get on the phone and call you back. It's no longer rude. It's just going to be overlooked because we have great products like this to be able to do and use. So let's jump over to another deal. Let's see. I want to show you and introduce you to Catherine Bell. Showed me this, provided me with this. This is Tommy's virtual executive board right here. So in Tommy's virtual executive board, I'm able to actually load in files that it will use as a knowledge base. And so, for example, what I've put in my knowledge base here in this one is I want it to know everything about the Opportunity Zone program. So it's got all that in there. It's got the original bill from 2017, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act bill. Now it's got the OBA bill, OBA law in there. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is in there. I also have put into it like a booklet from a beautiful place in Roatan, down in Honduras, in the Caribbean. There's over $600 million worth of real estate being developed down there. This Roatan Caribbean Living info booklet is just so robust with information that putting it into my virtual board allowed me to do a lot of amazing things. Let me show you. So instructions, basically the instructions that Catherine put into this for me shows that my advisory board, it's just a giant prompt, and it tells the AI how to operate, what to do, who to use, like using Walt Disney, Ray Kroc. I use really famous people with researchable information so that the AI can learn these people and create these AI, virtual board members for me. So that was genius. I was so impressed by that. So up here, we're gonna go over and look at some of the things that I do within this virtual board. Like I can create a pitch for property. I can review a file like I did with Roatan. Let's take a look at that. So we looked at Roatan and what we did was here, let me just get you all the way up to the top here. Obviously we did a lot of talking. And again, if you're in here and you're looking at this and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, but my ChatGPT don't do this. First, ask yourself, did you pay for the $20 version? You gotta be on ChatGPT Plus or better, ChatGPT Pro, in order to do these types of projects. If you're just on the free version, like you're literally only scraping 0.01% of the capabilities of what AI, OpenAI is able to do for us. So quit being a penny pincher. Go spend the $20 a month. It's totally worth it. And what you're able to do is do things like I did here. I took this 178 page brochure booklet and gave it to my virtual board and said, review this file on uh, on the Roatan Caribbean Living info booklet. And here's what it came back with. It broke it down by development. There's the Camp Bay Estates development, Cliffsides at the Park, La Champa Marina Resort, Sunset Vistas. And these are all just a variety of different developments down there. So I was like, all right, tell me more about them individually. So Camp Bay Estates, it's got residential lots, condo lots, a condo building. It's got amenities. The cliffsides at the park. It told me some prices on the cost of the condos over there. It's told me the land size. It's told me the location. La Champa is the marina. It told me about what's going on there, the housing opportunities, the marina, building a marina. The cost of building a marina is going to be shit, at least 30 to $50 million if you're building a nice one, right? So it's going to have 33 boat lots, dry storage, air conditioned rentals, all kinds of stuff. The marina is going to be off the chain. And then you got Sunset Vistas, and it tells us a little bit more about that. And so then there's the visual assets of it. I love that it went into this. I think we locked up. I don't know how I did it, but I hit the damn pause screen on the other freaking computer. Anyway, here we go. So visual assets out here at this place. It just gave some basic descriptions of what was out there, and gave some excellent breakdowns. So again, I could pretend like I never even seen this flyer, but I have. I went through the entire booklet, and there was a lot there. So I was like, you know what? Let me get AI to help me figure this out. So um, in reviewing it, I discovered that there's a condo building that has 22 units in it. And I was like, you know what? That is almost a good starting point for us to kind of break ground out there in Roatan. Working with Scott Miller, on this project with him. He's the main guy in charge out there. He's got all the connections to everything and everybody. I want to see if we can buy this property from Scott, built out, and start renting it in the short-term rental market, in the midterm rental market. There's traffic out there. There's cruises that stop by and let people off at the island. So I think it'd be amazing to set up a vacation package there for some folks. But as we scroll through this thing, I had it look at a short-term rental opportunity and give me some numbers on short-term rental and midterm rental. And I said, so what it did is it put the information. See if I can get my mouse. I don't know where my cursor's at. I can't see it. There it is. Right here. It put this information into a canvas. And in this canvas, it breaks it down for us. The property overview, application and startup costs, or acquisition and startup costs, operating strategies, expenses, etc. So got all that information. That's great. Now I need to find my way back to the chat. It's over here on the left side. Just cross out this, just X out this little thing right here. And it brings us back to the main chat where I got information going. So this has dropped me back down to the bottom. So let me jump back up. Because here's the juicy part. This is where we're getting into the juicy part, where I want to tell you what's going on there. We get all the information about the 22 units right there out of that. Always make sure you go back and tell your GPT that it gave you some good responses, so that it continues to perform in the direction you've sent it. Right when it's doing good, like, tell it. It's important. So what I did then was I said, all right, let's take that presentation and give it to my virtual board. On my virtual board, I have Walt Disney, Ray Kroc, Richard Childress, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, Catherine Bell, and Sarah Blakely. If you don't know who these people are, go figure it out. But what they're good at, what they're proficient at, is what I need advice on, because this is where combining all the information will give us good insight. So project summary, and just said, hey, can you guys tell me what you like about it, what you suggest I do, and then what you don't like or think I need to get rid of. And so when it gives me the opinion of Walt Disney, it's giving me the opinion of Walt Disney based on the knowledge base that it provided back in the instructions when I showed you we created this virtual board with Catherine Bell. Catherine Bell, the actual Catherine Bell, not the one sitting on this virtual board, is an AI guru when it comes to building out virtual boards for people, building out what she calls the Rosetta Stone for people, and even building out AI clones. Like, you can literally go to catherinebell.ai, call her, and have a virtual phone call with her about all things real estate and investing, and come back with some amazing insight and coaching. And Catherine wasn't even on the phone. What you can do though is then from that point, if you have more questions and you want to get deeper into stuff, you'd go to meetcatherinebell.com and then sign up there for a one-on-one call with her. And you'll be prepared to have that conversation because you'll have had a good conversation with her AI coach that she built. So Catherine does read all of these conversations that her AI has, maybe the footnotes, in the not too in-depth conversations. But if there's a deep conversation you have with her AI clone, she will be reading it and checking it out. So back to my virtual board, Disney, Ray Kroc, Donald Trump, Sarah Blakely, they all gave suggestions about what they liked. Catherine Bell, Richard Childress, and Ray Kroc then pitched in information about what they suggested and what kind of enhancements I should do. And then finally, what they didn't like was addressed by Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, and Sarah Blakely again. So that's pretty cool. That sounds like what that sounds like what a real board would do. So the virtual board did it. And I said, that's great. Now review the Roatan file in the knowledge base and have the board debate and discuss each with each other the upside and downsides of the overall project. Now, this includes all of the spots, not just the 21 or the 22 unit place. So they jump into the opportunity versus risk, and Disney gives his upside and downside. Ray Kroc gives his upside and downside, along with Richard Childress, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, Catherine Bell, and Sarah Blakely, all pitch in what they had. And then you can see here on the summary of the board sentiment, I'm able to get a good amount of information from that in a short version. I can even copy it right here. You can see this little copy of the table. I can copy that table, paste it right over to a website if I wanted to. So from here, um, I'm thoroughly enjoying what it's providing me, and so I want to get deeper though. I tell it it's got a good response, and I said let's get Trump, Catherine Bell, and Walt Disney to discuss the branding on it, because it seems like I'll show you why. Here in the suggestions, people are wanting me to brand, getting you can see here Donald Trump wants to work on branding. Walt Disney wants branding. Catherine Bell wanted branding too. So that's why I pulled the three of those people together. I'm like, why don't they discuss it intimately, directly? And this is where it got fun, right? Because during the branding strategy roundtable between Donald Trump, Catherine Bell, and Walt Disney, it's almost like the gloves came off. Donald Trump explained why, what he felt about, branding and getting into it out there. Then Catherine Bell discussed what she felt about it, which was exciting. Let me get my mouse back. I lost it. Bear with me. Bear with me. We got to roll this thing around a little bit. There we go. Don't want to lose that. Walt Disney then had something to add to it, which was fun. Come on, don't be stuck. Pardon me. So they had some shared takeaways and brand strategy pillars that I found to be very valuable. You can see here that Trump, Bell, and Disney feel like name power is important, visual identity important, the narrative is important, and the product tiering is important. So it pulled together a unified recommendation. And to be honest with you, it doesn't perform this way naturally. We had to build this into the instructions of it. Catherine Bell, the real Catherine Bell, AI guru when it comes to real estate, actually was able to pull together how this board needed to function with that prompt, and then we generated the instructions and embedded it into this way back at the beginning when we created it. So from there, it performs exactly as she created it, and it says unified recommendations. Catherine is very, very much into collaborating and bringing people together to get things done. You can see here that the strong opinions of the virtual board end up in a very specific way we can go about building this product out. So I said, now what I want you to do is talk about the 22 unit condo and the branding of that. And so I again opened it up for the three of them to kind of go back and forth with each other a little bit. And Trump renames it, puts his info in there, and then it shows it the critique of others. He says that, like Catherine wants people barefoot in fire circles because Catherine's more about the elemental living and the feminine wealth model. And so it's not a bad thing, but we need to be able to attract just about anybody. And then Catherine fires back at Trump with, how his idea is full of ego and exterior. It feels like very superficial. Um, and so she wants to bring in soulful thoughts and regenerative charm or regenerative design and development. And so, it's pretty neat how AI allows them to go back and forth with each other like that. She seems kind of soft on Walt though about how he's charming. She pays him a small compliment before she chops him at the knees. Um, and then Disney, Disney being Disney, he comes back with a name himself and how he wants to do it, and then um, he pays compliment to Trump, but says where he's lacking, and same with Catherine, and so um, Disney seems to just pay compliment no matter what, and it's kind of neat how they respond to each other. But from that, the combined brand strategy of the three is put in there, and um, it comes back pretty good. So what I did then was I said, let's get the whole board involved and get them to debate about it with each other. And so then at that point, Trump, Catherine Bell, and Walt Disney are able to put it out there to the board. And then Ray Kroc comes back, fires back at those three. Richard Childress puts his 2 cents in, which I want to point out why this is important. I picked Richard Childress because he's to me he's one of the first blue collar millionaires. If he's not a billionaire already, I bet Richard Childress is a billionaire and we just don't know it. That's what happens when blue collar people get rich. They don't tell you. They just do things, and then you can tell. You can tell. But Richard Childress, if you don't know, is a NASCAR. He's a NASCAR pioneer. Even though NASCAR started probably before he was born, Richard Childress put NASCAR on the map by having one of the most famous race car drivers driving for him. Um, Richard Childress was a race car driver, and he went and hired his competition. And then he took himself out of the driver's seat and left Dale Earnhardt in the driver's seat of Richard Childress, number three, Mr. Goodwrench, black number three. If you don't know about it, go learn about it, because that's what made Richard Childress a millionaire, if not a billionaire today. Having him on my virtual board has been a blessing because he thinks about things from a very grounded perspective. The beginning of things, starting of things, etc. Richard Childress was there from the very beginning of building something. Built his first race car, and he became a legend in the sport of racing. So having him on my virtual board has been amazing. And the example of that is right there. He says that he's worried about shipping delays. He's worried about rotted beams or bad material, having issues with customs, having issues starting to build it. And so he gives it a name, but he wants to focus on the ruggedness and the groundedness of it. So it's pretty amazing to me because it counterbalances people like Catherine Bell and Sarah Blakely, who are very much grounded in the feminine. If it was up to them, they'd have be a camp of women, and it would be an island of women. So um, if you ever seen the Island of Amazon Women growing up, that was a horror film. Not that I'm saying that Sarah and Catherine want to recreate that, but I'm just saying, like, that's a whole different movie. So anyway, it was cute to have crosstalk, just like a regular boardroom. And so they pitched that stuff back and forth at each other. I think it would be fun to actually watch this in a video. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be coming soon. And then suggested branding fusion from debate. So it showed where Trump and Giuliani aligned, Disney and Bell aligned, Blakely and Bell aligned, which is a no-brainer. And then where Kroc and Childress kind of added their 2 cents to get everything put together. So this whole deal right here was really fun to do. It was really fun to work on, just based on the fact that it had all those components to it. Where did my sidebar go? I think I lost my sidebar. Let's go up and get that. I don't even know where. All right, maybe I got to go further. I needed to go further. That's all. That's all. So another thing I did, and I will we'll end the show on this, was that we got the board to take a look at and review. This is where the comments left off yesterday, but we wanted to build an incubator fund for opportunity zones. And so we created a chat with the board about building a fund of funds. And if you don't know what a fund of fund is, that's okay. I'll give you the basics of it. Investors give an equity fund a bunch of money, say $100 million. That equity fund then goes out and finds really good other funds to invest in, because those funds are investing into assets. And so the $100 million fund might go work with 6 to 10 smaller funds and help those smaller funds get into money faster so they can get investors back their money faster. So looking at this, we wanted to prep the board to build a fund of funds for QOF and QORF. We had that conversation about it, and it helped us understand what we needed to build in structure. Of course, the strategic roles of the advisors were put in here so that we would then be able to explain why they're, we'd be able to get good explanation as to why they were thinking that way or what they were feeling. Some of the investments that we were looking at were multifamily workforce housing, industrial flex lot space, and logistics centers. Solar and clean energy infrastructure projects are kind of teetering right now, but definitely like data center and stuff. RV parks and travel lodging near master plan communities was a big thing. And then regenerative community developments, and that's per Catherine Bell's vision. Catherine Bell, by the way, is also intricately placed on the board as kind of like the director of that board. So even though there's a lot of powerful people around her at that table, Catherine is essentially the leader of that discussion. I'm gonna probably have to get a microphone for this because my voice is wearing out right now, trying to maintain a steady a steady amount of volume for this. A bit of a pain in the ass. Anyway, target QOF, QORF investment themes, multifamily workforce housing. We went through that. The legal framework for compliance is addressed because remember, I put the files into it that addressed opportunity zones. You can see here, I said, review these files, the Public Law 115-97 statute, and also HR 1 bill. I said, here, read these and get into these really good. I want you to understand them really good. So it did. And it broke it down really nice about what everything was. I've got another couple PDFs I'm going to be loading into it for more information. But for now, these are excellent because they're literally the government documents required for any fund manager to understand and know fully before they get further down the road. So how do you build a legally compliant fund of funds? And this is what it kind of broke out to it. So let's see. So here we got into the strategic use of a QORF. You don't know what a QORF is, go look it up. QORF stands for Qualified Opportunity Rule Fund, meaning this is specifically set up as a rule fund for expanding rural areas with industrial space, hospitality, mixed use, or multifamily. So we have taught it everything we need to know. So now we're going to move forward in it and say, did you review the second document and most recent of the two, seeing what the difference was between 2017 and 2024, and it gave us that information. The original framework versus what we have now. So it went through everything, explained everything. So um, and as of right now, the 2017 remains the governing authority is right, but we will need to teach it more about the opportunity zone when it comes to the 2026 plans. It understands it's coming, but we'll probably get more tranches of legislation over the next 12 months. So I told her, I said, what we want to do now is we want to launch $1 billion QOZ fund that spans real estate business development and innovative ideas within distressed census tracts. And it gave me a lot of strategic opportunities. So data centers, affordable housing, industrial flex, last mile logistics, clean energy, advanced manufacturing and robotics, regenerative agriculture and ag tech, rural healthcare, tourism, heritage, and experimental real estate. So I said, put all of these in each into the amounts the fund could or should allocate to each. So what we ended up with was it wants 20% in data centers, 25% in affordable housing, 15% in industrial flex space, 10% in clean energy, 8% in advanced manufacturing, 5% in regenerative agriculture and ag tech, 7% in rural healthcare and life sciences, and 10% into tourism, heritage, and experimental real estate. Getting into business and technology is important. And so I said, what about the QOZB and the QOZBP, meaning the qualified opportunity zone businesses and qualified opportunity zone business property? And it said, okay, well, looking at that, it gave the parameters of what all that looks like and what the rules are. And then I said, how can we get this into the new plan? And it gave me some ideas. So then I jumped gears. I said, break down what it's going to cost for us to build a 1 gig data center. And if you don't know what a 1 gig data center is, it ranges between 100 and 400 megawatts. A full gigawatt campus is unprecedented, and it would need to be built over phases. So the estimated cost per megawatt is 7 to 12 million. And since I want 1 gigawatt, it said that my build cost will be about 7 to 12 billion. So if I'm raising $1 billion, I'm 7 to 12 billion dollars short. So, all right, makes sense. Let's back it down a notch. It says let's start with a gigabyte per second data center, because maybe that's what I mean. And that cost to build that, it's small, 1 to 5 megawatt, means that it's going to cost me about $5 million to $20 million. Okay, that's a little more doable. The recommended strategy for this, though, is that we need to have fiber corridors, substation adjacent, low disaster risk levels, and affordable power, especially in the areas of Arizona, Texas, Virginia, and Iowa. And that's because we have sun. Texas has sun and wind. Virginia actually has water because they are the only ones allowing offshore hydroelectric, and then Iowa because of the wind farms. So, and that's a big part. That's a big part of it. It's also a backup source. It never goes down. So, well, let me caveat that it goes down, but whatever, not as much. So I said, let's look at doing something a little bit more mid-sized, 5 to 25. That's what it came up with. The call's going to end here real soon. We got like 2 minutes left. I'll zoom through the rest of this another time. But what we ended up with at the end of the day was a very detailed breakdown of stuff that each one of our virtual board members was actually able to pitch in information on. And so it became an amazing idea and concept that we're going to get into more later. We've got a lot coming up. So if you want to pitch your deals, if you want us to run these through the Deal Hunter by Landshark AI model, sponsored by Titan Impact Group, follow the links to this in the bio, my bio. Go to stand.store/Tommy D, or stand.store/Deal Hunter, and you'll be able to find ways to get your properties pitched to us. We do commercial Tuesday, industrial Wednesday, land Thursday, and opportunity zone projects Friday. Monday's all about getting funding. If you need funding, if you need to understand how to structure deals for funding, that is what we do on Mondays in the deal room. Bring your deals to us. Let us see how we can help get you some money, get you some capital, get you rolling down the street in your 6'4". And you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you for attending the Deal Hunter by Landshark Mastermind chat today. Have a good day, everyone.